In new polling exclusive to Global News, an equal number of Canadians, 19% of those surveyed, give the budget a thumbs up and thumbs down, while the majority, 62%, say they'd symbolically just shrug their shoulders.
So what does this tell us about Chrystia Freeland as Minister of Finance? Well, she just probably learned the lesson that a lot of federal and provincial finance ministers learn, which is not a lot of people pay a lot of attention to what goes on around budget time. So this was a budget that at best could be seen as positively neutral, I would say. Got a bit more attention than the last federal budget, but not a whole lot more. And when you take a look at voter support, really didn't move the needle on anything that has to do with what people would do if there's an election held tomorrow.
This budget was billed as a roadmap to put Canada's economy on the road to recovery out of the pandemic. 1 in 3 Canadians, 32%, believe that to be the case. 24% of those surveyed have the opposite view, and fully half of Canadians, 53%, say they aren't sure either way.
Well, overwhelmingly, what Canadians' priority is right now is to do something about the pandemic. Not a lot of it is related to fiscal policy or anything that has to do with longer-term economic planning here in Canada. An awful lot of it has to do, and almost exclusively, with getting people access to vaccines and getting our lives back to normal. So the budget really didn't speak directly to those questions. And for that reason, I think it's pretty hard to punch through and deliver another type of message that really isn't aligned with what the public's paying a lot of attention to. There might have been an opportunity in the budget to speak more directly to what people are going through. And I think at the start of the budget, you really divided into two parts. Part one was really related to the pandemic. Part two was related to what was going to happen later in terms of Canada's economic recovery. But the big message that came out of the budget was really related to childcare. And at this point in time, I think that there's a perspective that there's a need for having a national child care program. But even the people who have children at home didn't necessarily feel it was something speaking to their immediate needs. In fact, it was barely noticed. So the issue that the government has to deal with as it rolls this budget out or rolls out whatever the policies are that are going to be emerging from this is aligning it with the needs of Canadians at the time that they need it. So childcare, something that's been promised many times by national governments and has been pushed for by opposition parties in Canada. We still don't have a national childcare program. But even on that front, the people who have kids at home, not saying that they saw anything in the budget that would necessarily help them specifically. Also, I think the issue here is that for most people, the devil's in the details. So it's okay, you're promising a national child care program. Well, that's great. But what does that mean for me and my child, or the child that I'm planning to have, or the family that I'm trying to build out? There wasn't a lot of detail in the budget other than a promise to spend money and to negotiate things with the provinces and to set something up. So when we get down to how that's actually going to change people's lives, if and when it does, then you might get some more, I guess, kudos for what Ottawa is doing. But at the moment, it's just, as it's been in the past, a promise to do something. To jump out of the numbers when it comes to what we would call the horse race and how the parties would perform if an election were held tomorrow. The first one is that the NDP's moved back up. That's bad news for the Liberals and good news for the Conservatives. Because if the NDP is scoring well in an election campaign, it usually means that the three-way splits, and those are the votes between the various parties, the three major parties running in any particular riding, start to favor the Conservatives more than they favor the Liberal Party. So good news for the Conservatives if the NDP is up. The other worrying sign for the Liberal Party in the numbers is that the Bloc Québécois has moved ahead by 5 points in the province of Quebec. Right now, the thing that really makes the Liberals majority contenders is because they're leading by a considerable amount in the province of Ontario, where most of Canada's seats are located, or the largest region of seats in Canada. But the other place that is really important is the province of Quebec, where there's still a lot to win. In Ontario, the Liberals have probably won just about what they're going to win. There might be a couple of more seats one way or the other. But in Quebec, there's an awful lot of seats that it has to pick up in order to put itself in a position to win a majority. So the Bloc moving ahead of the Liberals by 5 points is a problem.